There are quite a few altcoins that were looking primed to pump before we had this down day, hence the second part of the title, or how to survive the bear days. It's days like this when you probably want to sit on your hands, watch the market, and prepare for the next setup. Guys, every Wednesday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is Trading Alpha with my friend Wick. We used to do it on Tuesdays. We're bringing it to every single Wednesday afternoon. This is my chance to get off the interviews and to start digging deep into charts with guests who are looking at this stuff all day and try to find alpha for you guys. Can't wait to get this series started. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I am Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Going to go ahead and bring on Wick right now. Pretty excited that we're doing this in the afternoon instead of just as the sort of, ending point for the other shows after the interview. Pretty psyched.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me here, Scott. I'm really excited to dive more into the TA, and yeah, can't wait to get started.
It's funny because all of my shows when I started YouTubing a few years ago was literally just all charts. I did Chartapalooza, I took chart requests, I showed whatever, and somehow I slowly became a podcaster and not a trader anymore. So for me, it's really exciting to sort of get back to the roots of looking at all of these. Sort of like I said before, I think maybe we should start with a quick sort of market update because stocks looking bad, Bitcoin looking a bit like a correction. And that means on a day like this, even though we want to find the top 5 altcoins that will pump today, maybe it's better to sit on your hands and wait.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that people forget when they're getting into trading is the fact that you need to learn how to be patient. And I talk about this a lot. More times than not, being patient is actually going to save you money rather than make you money. So forcing a trade is definitely the wrong thing to do. So yeah, let's look at the markets and see what we got.
Okay, so first, I think even though we do want to talk about altcoins and we are going to get into that, I think we have to talk today about NVIDIA because they have earnings coming today and the expectations are insane, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think NVIDIA has shot so far ahead of itself. And for those following me, it's probably been my number one talked about stock. It's my biggest position in stock. So I'm very familiar with this one, and it's a very pivotal day. So if you look at this chart here, this is the weekly macro chart to give us a bigger kind of sense of what's been happening.
I lost him. I can't tell if that's me or you guys. Can you guys hear Wick? Is it my headphones or is it I got disconnected? Uh-oh. 1 second. Keep talking if you are talking. Oh, yeah, they lost you as well. I don't know if you can, I'm going to try to bring him off and bring him back. You can hear me, right? Okay, he's gone. Let me tell him privately he got cut off. I'm going to cut his charts off and bring up mine because I also obviously have NVIDIA. I'm kicking him out. Yeah, there we go. Hopefully he'll come back. I'm going to take a look because there's something that I'm looking at as well on NVIDIA, which is kind of blowing my mind. And something that he and I were talking about right before the show is that I was taking a look at this weekly. Still green, right? This is Trading Alpha, the indicators that he created that we're using. Still green, but this is a terrifying pattern if you're a bull on the weekly. This is what's forming right here. If you guys don't know, it's called an evening star pattern. This is when you have a large candle, a gap up, gap down, and then another large candle to the downside, right? And so that is a bit concerning. But if earnings actually perform, we're going to see this down candle erase. So you can't consider this confirmed, but you've got to be watching this. You've got to be a bit scared of NVIDIA. And if NVIDIA goes down, the NASDAQ is likely to dump relatively hard with it, if I had to guess. When you dig into the daily here on the exact same thing, you can see, interestingly, it was starting to give a red dot before. It hasn't. But, you lost the green dots and you're potentially losing the track line here right on the daily. And when I showed that to him, you back? You want to test it? Can I hear you?
Yes, I'm back here, Scott.
We're good. You're good. So I just showed them the weekly that Evening Star was talking about, and I was showing them on the daily. By the way, that red dot's not there yet, but we've lost the green dots. You want to go ahead and share your screen and dive back into it, and the fact that
Yep.
we've kind of lost the track line here. But we were saying is it's interesting. You've had nothing but bullishness from NVIDIA, and today we're seeing the first crack on the chart on the biggest day when we're going to get the news, and that might be hinting at what that news is going to look like.
Right, exactly, right, and that's why I'm such a big fan of always sticking to technicals. You know, over the years, I've stopped paying as much attention to the news events, but it's very interesting when you have news events like this, where it's such a pivotal point, and in the technicals, right, you can see we also have a reversal set up here. So in these reversal setups, what we're waiting for when we get a reversal candle is we're actually waiting for the next candle to confirm to close lower than the wick. Okay. So it's just interesting that we're waiting on the earnings, and at the same time, there's a setup that's also waiting for the next candle. So this tells me there's a lot of risk here. You know, me particularly, I am in NVIDIA. I'm in a hedged position. So if I was not in a hedge position, it'd probably be what I'll be looking for to do is to maybe hedge that position or take some profits. Because you never want to play the guessing game, in my opinion, right? But the technicals are very much telling us that if we do get bad news, this thing is going to catapult to the downside, right? And if I had to guess, right, so let's play bullish scenario, bearish scenario. If we do get our bearish scenario, Scott, I'm still looking to get back in NVIDIA, but it probably won't be till around this level here. Okay, this was my first target that I had, and this is going to be a very, very strong level of support. And it's also what we call a logical place in technical analysis. So yes, if we get this horrible news event and the earnings just are so horrible, it couldn't keep up with the price action, then yes, my next target will be to look over here. Once we get here, I want to see the price action regain those green dots. Obviously, they'll be red by the time we get here. We'll have plenty of warning, but that'll be my next setup to enter if we do get some bad news on this earnings event.
So just to be clear, before we move on to the other charts, we're kind of looking for good news. This becomes irrelevant. Everything turns green, goes up. But if we get bad news, likely retracement where we're interested in like the 500 area, but we want to see it can actually consolidate there and start to turn green. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And, you know, this was my second target here that I had drawn. Once it reached that target, it was rejected pretty hard. So I do think that even coming back here, this will be some hard resistance to get above. So I don't think there's much to lose to either take some profit off the table. If you really have made any at all here, take some profit off the table would be a good idea, or hedge, in my opinion. But news events, earnings events aren't really something that I bet on, especially if I'm already in profit.
Yeah. You also have to mention the fact that Jeff Bezos sold like $8 billion worth of Amazon stock. I think the Senator Tommy Tuberville dumped like his entire portfolio. Sometimes
You saw that too, right?
When the big names start to do things, it might be a hint that they know a little something we don't. But okay, so let's dig into the crypto market now. Yeah, I see you've got Bitcoin, we got IBIT, which is obviously BlackRock's ETF, ETH, BNB, Mara, and CLSK. There's our obviously mining stocks. Link, there's a whole bunch of them. So let's dive in. That'll give you guys an idea of what we're going to look at here.
Yeah, now that we got that out the way, and I also think that if we see a bad earnings on NVIDIA, I think it could kind of spill over into our markets. And I do want to make a point that, you know, with these new ETFs coming on board, the Bitcoin ETF, soon we'll have an Ethereum ETF. I do think that we're going to start seeing correlation with the stock market happening more frequently, okay? Because a lot of these big guys, a portfolio is a portfolio, right? And now that it's going to have ETFs in there with Bitcoin, everything's kind of getting more commingled. So just keep that in mind when we have these big earnings events. However, looking at Bitcoin, right, if we're looking at it on the weekly charts, yes, we have had this correction, and it seems like it's been bigger than it really is, Scott, because we've had such a great run up, right? So when things have run up so fast, whenever they start to take a pause, it's like, oh no, what's happening? But if we actually keep it in perspective, we've gotten rejected from this 5,200 area here, $52,000 area here, and we're sitting at 51,000. Okay, so can we even call it a correction? I guess on the daily chart, but on the weekly chart, it's such a blimp. We're still holding green dots. We've gone through much more volatility than this. Look at this right here, still hold green dots. So I'm still very confident in Bitcoin. I've got no issues. I think it's probably the strongest horse of the rest. I think we're actually looking at alts for weakness more than we are Bitcoin here. It's
yeah, just to show you guys, like this is that high from December of 21. is that exact, it's 52,100 on Coinbase. That's the exact supply zone that you drew. I have that exactly in my chart, and we have 2 wicks, no pun intended for your name, above it here on the 2 weekly candles, right? So that's just a strong and very obvious resistance that you could have found before we even hit it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one thing that I wanted to do that I thought would be fun is let's go through and actually look at the other halvings and what's kind of happened at these areas. So if we go back all the way here, this is the first halving we can go to on TradingView. But it's very interesting because from the lows, right? From the lows, this is the halving right here. These right here, whenever I draw these are the halvings, right? So this is the halving right here. And from the lows to the highs, it went up about just over 350, 360%, okay? Once it reached the halving, then it pulled back again, and then it really took off, right? So if we really want to just kind of get excited here on this down day, we don't stay down, look at what happened here. And interesting enough, because I'm going to show you this again, once we reach that halving and we've come up 3x, okay, we start to consolidate, but we never really go below the track line, okay? So now let's look at the next halving, see what happened, okay? Here's the next halving, and it doesn't look like we have such a big move up to the halving, but if you actually measure down from the lows at this 3,000 area, it was actually also a 3x move, $3,000 to $9,000 area. 3x moves on both the last halvings. The last one went down a little bit sideways before it went up. This one's doing the same thing. It's kind of going sideways in a basing pattern before we go up at an even extended parabolic move, okay? So now at the current place where we're at, here's the halving. Okay. And if you measure from the lows, very interesting. And let's say we're at about 55,000 by the halving. Okay. We're at 50, 51, 52. So let's say, we're at 55. I think that's pretty fair. Okay. Scott, that's a 3x move from the bottom.
Below. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's 3x from the bottom. So it's ironic how this is all rhyming, right? Giving me more confidence that you guys just need to sit tight. And in times like this, when we have a few down days here and there or bigger corrections, right? You just got to have a little patience, got to keep busy, but don't start selling all your bags in this bull market if you're going to have investments. And if you are trading, just wait for the next setup. Okay. But as you can see here, even on Bitcoin, dots are still green. We got that breakout arrow. And, I expect it to go a little bit higher towards the halving and then maybe kind of fizzle out for a few months while the hype kind of dies down again, right? It's almost like we need a little springboard after that to kind of get it going. But very good things if you're kind of measuring it from historical standpoint. So very happy on Bitcoin. And one of the other things I wanted to point out is that this is an absolute great asset to be in. This ETF, this is when I actually posted a setup here about getting into the ETF. And look, Scott, the dots have stayed green all this time. We're still having green dots. So Bitcoin's looking strong, right? So I just wanted to make that clear as we go through the other assets. Now that we've done Bitcoin and we've gone through that kind of pretty well, let's get into the top 5 coins that I think is worth looking at and watching for setups, okay? And my number 1 coin I'm going to start out with, I think you'll agree with me. Let's start it with Ethereum, okay?
Give me ETH. Yes.
Give you the ETH, the sleeping giants, okay? We've been talking about this, I think, earlier than anyone, you and me, Scott. We were actually talking about it down here, okay? Yeah. But yeah, so where are we with ETH? We've finally broken through this level, okay? That's been pretty hard to get through, okay? Very good. We've got clear skies. However, we got rejected at that $3,000 level. And even though I don't have any resistance levels here, it's very clear that anytime you have a big round number, it almost acts as resistance itself. And I mentioned this on a few posts and in my Discord, okay? But look what's happened. Even with this down day and the sentiment that we're having, it still can't close below this support, right? It was resistance on the way up. Now it becomes support, and it's acting beautifully as support. So again, I think this is a setup to watch. It's already got green dots, right? If we go another week with another green dot, break through that 3K level, I think we've got at least 10 to 15% to the upside that we're probably going to get pretty quick. So I think this is a great setup to watch. And just Ethereum in general for the next 6 months leading up to any ETF news. I think any setups that you see technically, green dots, squeeze breakouts, these are things you should be entering and averaging in ETH, in my opinion. What do you think, Scott?
I agree. And before we cook into those, I want to show the ETH BTC pair, because that to me shows like the relative strength of the alt market and where ETH is at versus Bitcoin, which means you want to be there for strength. And I posted this on Twitter. I sent it to you because I've been waiting so damn long. Because I've had my own signals, but Trading Alpha would just not give me any signal on ETH BTC. right? For the basically almost this whole year after here. But you had the squeeze shading, the break above the track line, turn green, and there's your arrow, right? And so this is the daily on ETH BTC finally showing, and the weekly hasn't given the green dot yet, but it is now back above the track line for now. So like higher time frames, I think that will turn green if we start to put in more candles above the track line. Daily is green, and you go down 12, 6, 4, literally all green, literally all above the track line, staying green, squeeze shading. This gave you the signal as always. So like the fact that what you're saying has confluence on the Bitcoin pair to me means that our premise about Ethereum is right. We can move on, but that's what it means to me.
I'm super bullish. Yeah, it's a layup in my opinion. However you trade Ethereum, you got to find some way to get in it, in my opinion. Not financial advice, but as far as probabilities go, this thing is set to rocket. Okay, any sniff again of any ETF news, and this thing flies. So let's go on to the next one. My next one's gonna be FET. Okay, I'm choosing FET because of the AI play.
Yeah.
Yep. Now look at this thing. Okay, it's gone completely parabolic. What do we do when moves go parabolic? We simply just ride the squeeze breakout. We get in our entry and we just stay long as the green dots stay alive. Okay, so what do we have?
That, just for people, you see that squeeze shading, the break above the track line, the green dots, and that arrow. That's what ETH BTC just did on the daily.
Yep, exactly.
Just for the record. Not saying that it will repeat, but that's what it just did if you want to see what it could do.
Yeah, and Scott, we're even missing two things here. There's even more setups here. You got the bottom signals. Whenever you get the bottom signals in a stage 1, you simply look for 1 or 2 green dots after that to say the trend has started from the bottoming pattern. We have that too. So you actually have a couple signals here, and you had it here as well with the bottom signals coming up. But yeah, with this, you just ride it. Now we are having a pullback, right? And this pullback, what I really like to do with these pullbacks, these large candles, whenever you have a large candle, I could take it from the low to the high. And look at that 50% mark, okay, that red line where it says 0.5 retracements. That 50% mark for me is pretty much the bullish and bearish argument whenever you have a big candle like this one did over here, okay? So I think this is still pretty good. But I must be honest with you, Scott, all of these AI plays, I kind of have an opinion or a thesis that this is going to be very correlated to NVIDIA's earnings. So
it's a bubble.
Yes, exactly. For lack of a better word. So,
or I should say, one of our classic crypto cycles where you get your 1 month of a narrative and then it cools off and then you do it again 6 months later.
I like that. I like that description better, Scott. But
so
yeah,
I don't think they're done forever. I just think that like we had this irrational rise in anything, even superficially AI, which means that most of them aren't even AI and they're going to fall.
Well, that's one strategy that you have in crypto, right? Is to try and catch these narratives and kind of ride them and get out before they pop, for lack of a better word, right? But with this here, I really think it's very, very interesting because as you can see, we have had green dots all the way up. We have had a retracement, but what the story really is, in my opinion, is I'm very interested to see what happens when we get that NVIDIA earnings. If we get good earnings, I think that this thing carries on with green dots and rips to the upside, right? Contrary. And again, I might be wrong, but my thesis, I think that if NVIDIA bombs it, I think that these AI plays, I think it's going to cool them down a little bit. Yeah. So for that reason, this is number 2 on my list. Again, if we get NVIDIA earnings, it's not going to be it's not going to be a 1-day pop. This thing's going to go for a while again. So that's
by the way,
2 on my
for me,
list.
like this just happens to be a random Wednesday when we get NVIDIA earnings. It won't be like this every Wednesday, but this, guys, for the market, NVIDIA earnings today is as big as like holding your breath for an FOMC rate rise or so, right? Like it's that NVIDIA is such a big part of the market and it's so impactful that these earnings are like one of those Super Bowl type events for short term in the market, in my opinion.
And we'll see it. If NVIDIA gets bad earnings, you can expect the NASDAQ to take a little bit of a poop. So yeah, no, 100% with you, Scott. Yeah. So
I think I lost him again. All right. We're going to kick him out. Kicked. I'm going to bring up my charts right now. The next one I was going to look at is Solana. So I know that he has that up there on the top. Let me just message him. I lost you again. Gonna message him. But so Solana, actually, I'm a bit concerned with here on the daily. Like if you're looking at the weekly, by the way, guys, maybe I should just give you the quick elevator pitch. The show is called Trading Alpha. The indicators are called Trading Alpha. Wick is the guy who created Trading Alpha. And I've tried literally everything on the planet for charting. I still look at my blue and gray charts, of course, like a normal person. But this is the way that I screen the market now and look for everything. I wouldn't even be doing a show with him if it wasn't true. I'm completely like sold, hook, line, and sinker evangelist for this. And my deal with him to do the show, when we talked about it, was that he would give my people, which doesn't happen except for like a few days a year, 25% off at all times if you're interested in the indicators. Don't care if you buy them or not. Don't care if you're trading or not. Don't even need to be a trader. You could be an investor, dollar cost average. Fucking great. But you just use code 25 off and the link is below if you are interested in these. But so Solana's still looking really good on the weekly. I'm curious when he comes back to see what he was thinking on this one specifically. But the daily is concerning me because you're starting to see red dots. You're starting to break below the track line and you have the squeeze. And so my assumption from watching these is if we get this red dot and we get this move down, that potentially we could get that red arrow wick. I'm talking about Solana at the moment. I showed how the weekly looked good, but on the daily, we're starting to see some cracks in the foundation here. So I'm a little concerned. I didn't know if we were going to go to Solana next, but yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
It doesn't matter, man. We keep rolling. We're good.
Okay. So yeah, no, with Solana, that's exactly what I was going to do. I was going to start out on the weekly chart here. I was telling you guys that I kind of don't like this pattern here. It kind of resembles the start of a double top, right? Not saying it is, because it has to be confirmed. But if you bring up this RSI, which I know Scott loves RSI, we also have a little bit of a bearish.
We got to share your screen, buddy. Your screen's not shared.
Oh, fuck. Yep. Okay, sorry.
First show, guys. No, dude, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
It's great. It's doing great, guys, right?
Yeah, you guys are loving this. Okay. So here we go on Solana.
Look, it's me. Yeah, go.
Okay, back on Solana, guys. So double top right here. I hate this formation here. I want to see a break above this level, a close that breaks above this level so that this is not confirmed. Because if we go and click on RSI, we also see here some bearish RSI divergence. I know Scott loves these plays. So a little bit of divergence there. You also see volume here that's kind of trickling off below the red line. This is very low volume. Prices do not need high volume to drop. In fact, quite the contrary. And then also on our thrust indicator, it's been blue. There's been no orange big thrusts up to start moves. So this is giving me a little bit of worry. And again, I want to see what happens after NVIDIA's earnings. I want to see how that affects the crypto market. Now, what would I do if Solana did have a little bit of a down day, as we see here on the daily chart? Okay, it's got a squeeze shading. We got a red dot. We're kind of trying to break below the support here. If it did break, again, we would probably be looking at these levels right here and then again right here to get in. But what you pretty much do is this is going from a stage 2 uptrend to a stage 3 basing. And you can see I have my numbers here. This is a stage 3 basing. What happens in stage 3, guys? It's the same as stage 1, which pretty much if you break above resistance, you go into a continuation stage 2. And if you break above support, you go into a stage 4 downtrend. That's what we don't want. So I think this is probably my line in the sand for the stage 4 right here, this $83 mark. I don't anticipate it getting there, but I just want to be aware of it. Okay, so we are seeing, again, a little bit of a double top formation, red dot on the daily, squeeze shading that hasn't broken out just yet. So just be aware of that, guys. This is the first time I've gone to the Solana chart and said, just kind of be wary, okay? But on the weekly chart, again, if we do pull back, I really don't think it'll be anything but maybe to, you know, the $83 level right here of a retest, right? Maybe of the track line. I still have my
77 bids. I still have them. They got left behind last time, if you remember, and I bought at 80. But yeah, and I bought at 94 again, actually, on the way up. So
now, last thing, on the contrary, if this market does pick up again, relatively speaking, there's been very few coins that have held up as strong as Solana, both on the up moves and the down moves in this cycle. So still one of my favorite coins if this market recovers good, which it will eventually. From this little correction that we're having, Solana is still my third play. Going on to number 4 here, let's go to Render. Okay, Render is another one of my coins that I love, and I love it. It's also synergistic with Solana because it's built on the Solana chain. Render's looking great. I mean, even on this weekly chart, I mean, we've retraced about halfway, still got green dots, haven't even lost them. So again, relatively speaking, this is one of the strongest charts to me in crypto. I think that once it breaks this right here, that it's absolutely going to fly. Okay. So I think that's what we're waiting for. But render's one of my next ones that I think that's in this bullish market, you'd be a fool not to at least consider render. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I love it. It made me think of another chart that I want to show you guys, which was, if you've been with me for a long time, I started trading Elrond when it was ERD and like a 10 sat or 15 sat coin on Binance years ago. We wrote it up like a few 100x, then it changed to eGold. And if you're looking at the eGold chart versus the chart you just showed, you see this huge just rounding bottom. Like it drops onto the market, comes around, looks just like render to me. And you can see that. So even if you came out of that and bought it at 10, 20 bucks, that went as high as $544.
Right.
And this to me looks exactly like this. Exactly.
And I want to point out something as well that technically it's not as sound, but to me, crypto kind of messes up patterns a little bit. What do you think about this, Scott? Do I even have to point it out?
No, it's just a big, well, for me, it would be a cup and handle, right? Which is normally a top, but when you just launched, yeah. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. So a cup and handle, for those of you that don't know, is a bullish pattern, and you're looking for the cup, you're looking for the handle, and then to break above here to go up. So we are actually in a setup here. And render just keeps making bullish setups, whether you're talking about the B's to the green dots, to the squeeze shadings that keep happening, to the patterns of a cup and handle. So again, yeah, this is definitely one of my strongest convictions as far as the coin goes. Again, once the market picks up steam, Scott, I think render goes much higher.
Yeah, that looks nuts. Okay, what else we got? We got a few more minutes.
Okay, let's end here on the top 5 coins for BNB. So BNB, I wanted to give you guys a setup today. And the setup that I was watching, I was trying to time it. I couldn't time it perfectly, but it was the squeeze shading breakout. So even on a day where we have weakness in the market, right, you can find setups that will lead to higher prices, that will get you in profits. The issue is that, this probably would have been a better setup if it was a bullish day, if it was a bullish day in the market, okay? So always keep that in mind, right? I like to use what you call a top-down approach, which you're always looking at the macro time frames to make sure that you're trading with the trend. So today's trend would be kind of down, right? So it's hard to catch these bullish setups in down days, right? But you do see here one with BNB, and it is showing great relative strength, even higher right now as we speak. So
I'm blown away by BNB. I guess there was such an expectation they were going to lose to the SEC that, at 200 they were dead. It was just a classic FUD narrative. Has to go down, has to die, and now from there you're up.
Yeah, I think at one point I even started doubting them myself. So I learned a lesson there. Yeah, totally amazed by how they've just stayed so tenacious through all of it. Let's just Scott, let's end off with some of the requests. So I saw somebody talk to me about Marathon Digital. Okay, so let's look at Marathon. What do you see here, Scott, in a pattern formation?
I see another cup and handle.
You see another cup and handle, okay? So it could be another cup and handle, right? For that to confirm, we would need price action to keep green dots and kind of break above this area right here. What you also potentially see is a double top, a messy double top, right? Because that's what crypto does. You saw a double top right here and maybe even a bigger one happening. So if we pull up the RSI, anytime I think that there might be a double top, the first thing I do is go to RSI and see if I can kind of identify a bearish divergence, okay? So just watch out for Marathon Digital. And just if you want my opinion, if I was going to play, and I've said this before, I've talked about this before, but if I was going to play the miners, I would be looking at CSLK, Clean Spark, okay? It's got a much better chart. If you compare Marathon Digital to the Clean Spark, you can see that the second leg just reached almost the highs of last time. But if you look at Clean Spark, okay, relatively, it's a lot stronger. Okay, you've got higher highs than the last leg. So if I was going to pick a miner, it would definitely be a Clean Spark. And what would I be looking for here? Okay, so the same thing. We're kind of coming down. We might end up losing this green dot. If we do, for a bearish argument, I would be looking right here. I'd be looking for green dots. I would be looking for some resistance, price action to kind of bottom right here, whether it dips below and comes back. And I would look for green dots to start after we kind of test this level. This, again, is a logical place.
Absolutely love it. Guys, we hit 4 o'clock. I promised him we'd only keep him for 30 minutes. Yeah, I mean, I think that was great, especially on a day when we're obviously down, give you the context of what we'd be looking for, especially with NVIDIA, what that could mean for the market. Definitely has me concerned and sitting on my hands looking for some lower prices in case we have it. And listen, if we miss to the upside, we all have bags loaded anyways, right? So I think that's a better case scenario for everyone. I gave you guys a soft pitch while he was off. I'm going to give you the hard pitch. If you are trading, this is such a amazingly simple system that I've said this 1,000 times. Like, I went through Ichimoku clouds and I've been through every strategy there possibly is, but this is like, dude, there's a green dot and an arrow, right? Oh, the green dots are gone. Get out of it. It's really, really simple. So if you're looking for something to simplify, even as a scanner, I really highly recommend. And this is the only place, am I correct, that you can get 25% off all the time, is using the code 25OFF in the link below.
100%.
Correct.
Go to Scott's link, click it, go to our website, find the Alpha Bundle. Okay. I'm just going to tell you what everyone gets. You want to get the Alpha Bundle yearly. In the yearly version, why the yearly version? Because in the yearly version, you get our premium indicators. You get the green dots and you get the track line, which is not in the monthly version. But if you choose the yearly version, when you're checking out, if you enter 25 off because of Scott, he convinced me to do this. This is normally a sale that I run twice a year. Now I'm running it for Scott's. Go to the website, check out, put in 25%, 25 off, 25OFF, and it will drop the price substantially. So yes, you guys do have a great coupon here for the opening of our show.
Awesome. Guys, you watch Shardy B absolutely slay it with these things on a daily basis. It's unbelievable. I've never
She's great.
My friends out, like my Wall Street guys from high school friends, all follow her specifically and like have a whole group me chat about her calls.
You know, Scott, I talk to Shardy every day. It wouldn't be, I wouldn't be, I mean, maybe we should try and get her on the show.
Dude, I've tried before. She's so anon, but she's a Gator fan and she used to live in Gainesville. So I think we've got a fighting chance. There you go.
I think I can work on
her. Add her. That would be so amazing. Come on. Then we'll do more than 30 minutes. But yeah, we should do that. Dude.
Thanks for having me on the first show today, Scott. This was great. I appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Thank you all so much. We're going to do this. I might be off next Wednesday, but in general, it's going to be every Wednesday. All the Wednesdays except for the Wednesdays it's not. Eventually, I'll just let you show up even if I'm not here, though. So that would be fine, too. All right, guys.
Scott,
yeah, go ahead.
Scott, if I could just drop my handle here. Guys, if you do want to follow me as well, you can reach me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is 0hedge_.
You can see it right there on his bio, at 0hedge_. Guys, absolutely must follow, especially if you don't have the indicators. You can just kind of follow along there, right? So easier and figure out what's going on. All right, guys, that's all we got for you today. See you next week. See you tomorrow morning. Love this afternoon action. Thank you, man.
Cheers.
Later.
That's dope.